Thank you, Balaji. Over to you, Neel. You are a little different from all of us, which is in a good way, because you're going to talk about how to incubate in the Indian startup ecosystem. So please do talk to that, and what kind of end markets are driving the design momentum that you currently have.
Thanks, Anand. So I'm going to start off with the templates, at least borrow keywords from what he said. So InCore has placed a bet on RISC-V. It's a lip service today, but we hope to make it a reality soon. And we are finding paths within the Indian ecosystem to get chips into the hands. Right? So we are playing both the things. At InCore, RISC-V, we believe, is much more mature in the embedded space. It's where it can actually enter market. It can compete with existing parts, whether it's ARM, it's PowerPC, but those sort of embedded, low embedded IoT, narrowband IoT sort of segments. To give you more specific examples, smart cards, e-passports, you're looking at energy meters, these sort of things where India has a protected market. Right. This is where the government can induce policies, can have the ability to go Atmanirbhar without creating chaos in an existing system. Right. There's enough cake on the table, and we're talking volumes here, right? So we're talking about loading the fab, and obviously this is not 1,000, 10,000, or a million, but if you go through the recent tenders by the government to promote indigenization, there's a power meter which was of the order of 25 crore meters to be replaced over the next half decade. Right. And just add a layer of Atmanirbhar, just add a layer of indigenization, even if 10% of those chips have an Indian IP of sorts, right? Whether it's RISC-V or not, that's huge volumes that we're talking about today, right? So having said that, so InCore is more focused on those areas. We are working at the deep embedded, ultra low power, resource constraints segments, trying to replace existing solutions, right? So RISC-V has come up as a amazing alternative. It is not amazing technology. It's nothing new that you're going to find in RISC-V in this space. So the complexity is low. The demand from RISC-V on the fab is going to be very simple. You can have very low complex devices, slightly more analog heavy, definitely for sensors and IoTs that you're looking at. But the digital components are extremely simple. I think you can have multiple startups play in this field very quickly with low amount of risk pertaining to them. More importantly, I think the government has played a significant role in all of this with the C2S schemes that InCore has also been awarded one of those grants. The DLI schemes that I see a lot of startups availing to that benefit. The patient capital that this industry demands, and specifically the fabs or the startups that demand. I think the government has pinpointed, identified the pain points, and come up with schemes that enable them to take the step forward. Right. So the DLI, the PLI schemes, the 2.0 that was discussed a couple of weeks back in Bangalore. I think these are amazing initiatives by the government. It's reigniting the passion amongst the youth to take on digital design as a topic, as a career, as opposed to the generic AI, ML, cloud that we're suddenly starting to see. So I think the push from government, the investors coming into the right place, and our focus is majorly on volumes, where the complexity is low and there's enough pie on the table for us to grab on.
So Neel, thank you. But just one follow-up question. A year back, I'll be honest, I was a little cynical of another instruction set showing up. Many of us were. But the momentum in the last 12 months has been amazing. So the question I have for you is, if you have a target embedded application in mind between an ARM versus RISC-V approach, what's the real advantage? Is it go-to-market? Is it the flexibility of being able to tweak it? Is it all of the above? Or the government incentive, focus, help? I'm guessing it's a lot of many things, but a little more commentary there, please.
No, I think my answer is going to be all of the above because you've touched the right keywords, and I'm just going to elaborate a little on that. So when you're looking at a transition from ARM to RISC-V, it's one, you are providing the lack of vendor lock-in to the customer, right? RISC-V is an open ISA. You don't have to go license it or find different vendors. There are going to be multiple players providing similar options across the world. So even if you've bought a chip and you want to change microarchitectures rather than the architectures, you will have solutions, you will have an evolution of your product, right? You're not dependent on a single customer. So that's the biggest thing. You're not dependent on someone else's evolution for your own evolution. RISC-V gives you that flexibility. Customization, definitely. You are no longer bound to picking a lot of luggage on the chip. You know, if you're an IoT sensor and you're looking at a Cortex M0, but you don't like certain parts or your firmware doesn't use certain parts of the instruction set, RISC-V gives you the ability to deviate. It gives you the audacity to go different than what the conventional is, right? And it gives you that audacity on the first day itself. That's the kind of leverage that RISC-V gives you. And from the government perspective, I'm sure a lot of people know about it. There is a Digital India RISC-V program, which sort of builds a huge stand on RISC-V being the instruction set of the country. But more importantly, trying to propagate it within institutions, trying to identify segments within the industries where RISC-V can propagate and make a stand for itself, right? So when you're looking to transition to RISC-V, I think all of these factors play a role. There's a confidence from the government, there's the customization angle, which makes it beneficial and gives you the uniqueness factor. And obviously, it's a good business model for you to evolve your product.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we are probably 6 minutes away from lunch. As I promised, we'll probably not keep you away from lunch, but in the interest of time, if my panelists agree, we can open up for questions. I think the intent here was to give to all of you a sense of the kind of exciting, some high volume, some cutting edge, some disruptive designs that all of us are working on in our respective design centers. Many of them are poised for growth and scale over the next many years and help with the whole concept of fab loading globally and at someday in India once we have that infrastructure up and running. So with that, I would like to open up for any questions from the audience, and then I see a hand over there. Yeah.
Hi, Neel. My name is Prasad Joshi. My question is to you, but even open to all other panelists. And it is a follow-on question to what Anand asked. You talked about a new design on RISC-V. What about existing designs or legacy designs? Do you see a trend or do you see any traction there that existing designs which are on the other competitive platforms are moving to RISC-V?
Absolutely. I think my focus, pardon me if I didn't get this right in the first shot, but RISC-V is going to find design wins as an alternative. So there are already existing solutions that people are either vendor locked or they're looking for a little more juice, a little less power, and you're trying to transition that to RISC-V. Or you just have a better business model in RISC-V. Either you found something that's open source and it fits your bill, and you're able to move to RISC-V more easily and stop paying royalties or have your own in-house design center on RISC-V. So legacy is definitely the momentum that RISC-V is banking on for now. Because as I said, in the embedded space, there's not much of wiggle room to innovate, but it's the solution and the business model that drives these products, right? So just to give you an example, we have done, I mean, in my previous avatar of working at Shakti at IIT Madras, we had actually worked with Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, where they were transitioning from a 30-year-old ISA and a microarchitecture to RISC-V in a way that would not be RISC-V, but they wanted to be on an open ISA to start with, right? So there is definite momentum in the kind of track that you're choosing.
Just one additional comment. Good question. This morning when I think Bhakta talked about RISC-V getting into possibly a data center workload type applications, I felt more empowered because just sticking to IoT embedded would have made me a little nervous personally, personal comment. But the fact that you're beginning to navigate the entire spectrum of workloads and applications means you're becoming, in my mind, authentic as an instruction set, right? You're not just playing to a very point, because we know that IoT embedded, though very exciting, has his own challenges in terms of scale sometimes, because you will compete with ARM day in and day out, right? So that, I felt that flexibility was amazing. Good to know. Wonderful. Good question.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Kishore Narang. I'm just a product and system designer. I think my question is for Neel. I love this, democratization of innovation, which we are talking about through RISC-V and all this kind of thing. But I'm a bit skeptical and maybe confused. Please help me get clarity. You're talking of the basic core being customized for different use cases, different like smart meter and all that, and I've been doing. But do you know what it takes to, what kind of maturity time from the core to customized cores, the silicon to a tape out and by products being done by the time this market that you talk about, smart meter, might be over. And then, are you looking at the startup ecosystem picking one customization at a time rather than what we today have, whether it is NXPs or STs or anyone? They have the core and then they have the customized version for smart metering, for maybe communication, for all those SoCs with different kind of add-on peripherals, whether for communication, RF and all that. Do you see this kind of a democratized startup ecosystem will be able to survive and continue and sustain and cater to the market?
So to answer your first question, where does the customization take too long? Are we spending too much time on things and are we losing the train at the right station? Right? I don't think that's the issue. InCore has a solution for smart meters. It has a solution and for different sort of embedded systems. Not allowed to talk them on the public forum, but I'll be able to catch up with you differently. But the customization is an innovation part of InCore, right? So we've built on the tech stack so that you get the customization on day one within 24 hours. Now there's a customization of the core, there's a customization of the SoC, where you say that I want to use the same core for battery management, electric vehicles. I want to use the same core for narrowband IoT. I want to use it in my microwave. That's the SoC changing, but you're able to customize the core very fast for each of those SoCs, right? There are going to be players in the market who now start adopting RISC-V and building custom solutions or custom SoCs on a generic RISC-V core, right? We are trying to bridge that gap as well. So you don't have to go generic. You can go day one without a loss of payday as soon as possible to the market with RISC-V. So I believe that RISC-V enables, that was the legacy of RISC-V, that you can do all of these things on day one with amazing amount of flexibility. I think the only barrier that RISC-V is going to hit is the software stack, right? If everyone goes fragmented, if everyone starts deviating from RISC-V, how do they maintain software? But that's a longer discussion. That's an ecosystem discussion that RISC-V itself has to be involved. And they're definitely doing a lot of efforts in that space in order to move forward. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Any non-RISC-V question from the
yes,
audience?
please.
Yeah.